And we're live on a different day at the same time. And it is Thursday. I don't need this. Thursday, October 17th. I think everything is routed correctly. And whether or not anybody shows up for this live stream remains to be seen, but we will see what happens. Yes, so if you are here, I would love it if you just made a comment. Doesn't have to be a question, doesn't have to be a topic that you want to. Whoop, there we go. Harrison's here. Harrison, thank you for the post. And I just want to make sure you can see and hear me clearly, that there isn't any issues with that. I don't think there are, but I just want to make sure. And the first live stream in quite some time, the last one before I went away. And I'm probably going to have to turn off the emails, because who wants email notifications when you're doing sounds good, maybe a bit much, Brandon, but I'm glad you can hear and see me. Pastrami on rye, what is that? So let me just quit the old email client here so that I don't get any pie is ready dings. And yeah, here we are. It's been a while. Yeah, that's pretty much truth right there. I kind of do look like a pastrami on rye, if there's such a thing that a human being can look like. I've been through a war in the last couple of days, and I am definitely on the mend. But I'm very glad, if you've been tracking with the Daily Drop, that I shot those back to back to back episodes, because there was no way yesterday I was going to be able to shoot another episode. Today, I probably could have gotten one done for tomorrow, but I definitely didn't want to. And I felt like it was time to get back onto the live stream situation and just connect with this community and find out if anybody has any questions about stuff that they're working on or equipment and things like that. And yeah, that's why the live stream exists, is to have a dialogue, community, answer questions related to production that you may have. And I still, with the little travel bug that I got, haven't had a chance to completely organize this space. The beauty of, you know, television is that what you see, it's, yeah, I'm definitely not ready for this. Oh, here we go. It's one of our friends who doesn't have a Costco membership that asks us for things from Costco when we're there. And this time it was a flat of pomegranates. And so, just so you know what's happening, it's the coordination of the handoff of the pomegranates. Ridiculous. Okay. So, yeah. So things have definitely been getting a little busier, and it's still a roller coaster ride. Just had one potential project come across my plate that I don't think is going to happen right now, but it's at least encouraging that I'm being asked by that particular client for that type of stuff. I feel like this is a little hot. I'm going to turn it down. Hold on. I can't turn it down. It's at 1%. Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, it's getting a little busier and a little bit more promising going forward. We'll see how that all goes, but there's at least active projects happening on a regular basis. None of the, you know, you're paying off debt and, saving money type of stuff, but at least there's a constant sort of flow of things happening, and that's a better sign than a lot of what's been going on over the last year plus. So Tell me about yourself. What's going on? Any questions you have, as always, and at the C47. I'm not 100% sure I'm lasting for a full hour today, but if there's a lot of questions and a lot of dialogue, these things tend to fly. Like they just go really, really fast. If there isn't, then they go slowly. So let's get down to some business. DJ, what's happening? Um, I'm ready to chat about stuff. I don't think there's been a lot of big announcements since I left because that was really sort of after IBC and most of the stuff. But I'll hop on. There's some new Amarin lights that I was looking at earlier on, which are kind of interesting. And interesting not because they are creating a brand new product category, but more so that Amaran sort of, I'm starting to see that concept of that brand and how it's breaking away from, but still tied in with Aperture. So they came out with these, or they announced these Ace 25X and 25C. They're these little, little panel lights. But the output looks to be quite good for their size, and the pricing is very aggressive. It's $99 for the base kit, I believe. No, $69 for the base bicolor, $99 for the base color version, and then you've got I think $99 for the bicolor kit and like 125 or so, something like that. I'm just everything is very, very reasonable and looks to be quite good. DJ's running, so keep running. Gorilla Coast, hello, hello. I don't know if you've ever posted within the live stream, so welcome. And maybe you've sort of been in the background. The way it works here is if you want to bring up or have a topic of anything, it can be about daily drops, it can be about general production, producing, a project you have coming up, equipment, then just put in at the C47 with your post, and then we'll just start to go down that lane, and we'll start to talk about that. And everybody who's part of the live stream can chime in. I'll give an answer if I have something that is worthwhile to say. Harrison says, got my C400s. I guess that means at least two in a few weeks ago. I'm loving it so far. Yeah, I mean, everything I'm seeing about that camera is pretty great for the price point and the feature set. And I think that this C80 will be a great match to that. And for some people, also just a great A camera, B camera solution without even going to the C400. So it just depends what kind of production you're doing, what kind of camera you're looking for in terms of ports and everything else. All right, let's get a topic going. I would love to hear something that you want to discuss. And as I said before, I haven't tested out the. I've got the Manuka Honey Drop in here. I haven't tested out the vocal folds, the voice box in a couple of days in terms of talking for this long continuously. So hopefully the dreaded tickle doesn't show up or something like that. And I'm sure you're all familiar with that. But definitely feeling like I'm on the mend. I will say that after I shot those 3 episodes, the last of which will drop tomorrow, that night was rough. It was bad. What was that, Tuesday night? Ugh, awful. Yesterday wasn't much better. That was like the in bed day. And as I said in the episode, I won't say if ever, but I rarely get sick. It's very, very unusual. But it looks like Jess had gotten something. I don't think it helped that on our way back, after doing everything we were doing for work and then this destination wedding, that we had a 6 a.m. flight. and we had to return a car, which means that we're kind of getting to the airport at 3ish in the morning, so we can do the whole car, the drop off, get over there, and then check in effectively for an international flight, even though we had like a short hop from Italy. We went from Bologna to Amsterdam, and then we got to Amsterdam and we had about a 2+ hour layover, and then we went through to Oregon. But because of that early flight, maybe we got an hour and a half worth of sleep the night before, 2 hours at most. And I say sleep in quotes because you don't want to miss your flight and everything else. So that was pretty brutal. And then once we started our official travel, I think we clocked it that the actual travel time was 21, 22 hours in total with layovers and everything, getting to the airport, layovers, all that stuff. And from the time that we got up with almost no sleep from the day before to the time that we got home and went to sleep, I would say that maybe close to 30 hours. And that's not including the day before. So I think just the body just kind of wore down, and enough of that. On the mend. Harrison, did you learn anything new on your recent shoots? And do you mean from the stuff that I've been working on for local production or from when I was in Europe? Um, oh, interesting. So clarify that with me, Harrison, in terms of what you're asking about, and then I'm happy to answer that question. Hold on. Maybe the tickle. DJ says this may be a deep misunderstanding, but I feel like I'm starting to detect a pulling away from Red, less colorists working with their footage, product price drops, etc. You vibing anything? It's a good question. It hasn't been, hey Pat, it hasn't been something that I've been thinking about, but of course, with the Nikon purchase, it's definitely worth discussing. Um, I definitely think they're not going to be the same kind of camera company they've been in the past. And just because of the way that company was founded and was run, you think about Jared Land and you think about Jim, is it Jannard or Jannard, from Oakley, who really started it and then brought Jared Land on. Unless you have those types of people within the company sort of running it, then there's a huge shift that's occurring. This is now no longer kind of a company that has that DNA of Red in the traditional sense. It is very much going to be a Japanese company. And the Japanese company is smart enough to know that they want to keep that DNA there. Um, I don't know. I think we'll have a much better idea, DJ, probably by NAB, because I think we also need to understand Nikon's vision for Red as a company. I don't know. It wouldn't make sense that they bought the company to get rid of the company because they weren't really competing with Red. That wasn't. It's not like having Canon or Sony buy Red and then just saying, okay, we'll get some patents here, we'll integrate some things into our products, and that's going to be the way we do it. It's very different with Nikon because they're not really in the digital cinema space. They're not in the video camera space. They are now. So I'd be interested to see where it goes. And it's also just that the new crop of cameras. I mean, whether you're looking at a Pixis or you're looking at a C400 or you're looking at anything that anybody's coming out with, they're just all so dang good at being able to capture and have sort of source footage that you can work with in post. Um, Harrison says, just in general, there are always problems. What, if anything, would you do different? Gear prep planning. The Europe stuff was pretty small scale in terms of the content that was being created. Um, I think I would have brought some more audio gear in hindsight, potentially. I'm looking at this little Tascam FR AV2, and I watched Curtis Judd's entire video on it, and he's really happy with the overall quality of the audio. I did a firmware update before I even started using it because it recommended I do that. And it's a tough one because at least with my initial test with noise gate, which is essentially kind of like the noise assist that I'm using on the Mix Pre 6.2, though that's a little more granular. I can dial it in by 1 dB increments, and this is like low, medium, high. I'm just finding that it's bringing in some weird room noise or tone or noise floor when somebody starts to speak. And I didn't hear any of that in Curtis's video, though he might have been on the previous version of the firmware, and maybe that's the reason that I'm having those issues. I love the form factor of this thing. It's nice and tiny, 32-bit float, 2 inputs, which for the vast majority of stuff that I'm doing is perfect. The fact that it's all sort of buttony kind of in terms of how you're using the product, I think that's a big downside for me compared to the Mix Pre series. I like pots. I like, things that I can press and I can access. It also has a nice touch screen, meaning the Mix Pre 6.2, albeit small. So we'll see. Sorry. But I should have definitely brought probably a little bit more audio gear, I think. But I don't regret that for the majority of stuff that I was doing, especially for the daily drop, that I was leaning on the iPhone. I'm doing some tests right now with the iPhone where, I prefer to use, I mean, look, the front facing camera on the 15 Pro is actually quite good. It's 4K, but it really is a fixed focal length. So the rear facing cameras will give me a lot more flexibility in terms of that. And there are some interesting little monitor solutions that you can get that will either wirelessly or preferably for me wired, so you can have a monitor here on the rear facing side so that when you're using that, you're getting a feed of what it is. Now, you can plug very easily, and it doesn't need to be a dongle this large. You can just do a USB-C to a very similar type of dongle to this, where it's USB-C on one side. This is not. This is mini HDMI to just HDMI. And then what you would do is you would just plug this into an external monitor. But I like the idea of something that's just sitting right on the back of the phone. If I'm doing that, I might pick one of those up and do some tests on them. They're about $100 off of Amazon. Um, so that would be something, Harrison. If I was using my phone even more, I'd like the flexibility of being able to use the rear facing cameras more for sort of for vlogging, or I mean that's not what I do, but you get the basic idea for the daily drop. But I think for what we were doing, we brought the right stuff. I always question that, but and I'd rather have more stuff than less, but that wasn't really the goal of this particular trip. And I'm shocked at this point in general at how good in uh in enough light, is probably the way I want to say it, in enough light that these devices are now getting at capturing general footage. Um, I just think back years ago. I don't have to think back decades ago. And the quality of image that I can get with a smartphone with enough available light, whether it's artificial or it's natural light, is pretty remarkable. It falls apart very rapidly when there isn't enough light in the image, but it's pretty amazing what you can do. David, how are you? Good to have you here. Um, I've stated earlier on, I don't know how long I'm going to last on this episode, but the more we get dialogue going and the more conversation we have on topics with the whopping, we're not even double digits here, we're at 9. I can guess sort of who most of the 9 are. Um, the longer we'll go, you know? So I'm happy to do that. And hopefully we have some more topics. And, I think that one that you asked about, Red DJ, was sort of a good sort of, topic to have a discussion about. What else do we have? And if for some reason I mute for a second, I might just step off camera and do a quick nose blow or something like that, so I don't sound like I'm totally stuffed up. But again, feeling so much better than yesterday and the day before and the last couple of nights. So I didn't get back into bed today. That's a good sign. So I have been working all day. Maybe when I'm done with the live stream, it's time to chill. So what do we got? Let's get another topic going. I'm ready for it. This might be my opportunity to walk off camera and do a quick nose blow. Here's the You didn't hear that, did you? When I blow my nose, trust me, if the mic isn't muted, you will hear it. It's like a trumpet. So important. Okay. So if we want to keep this going, let's get some topics going. Any new equipment that you're interested in? Any equipment you've been using that you want to talk about? Um, any problems or things that you are preparing for that you want to discuss that I might be able to help you with in terms of production? I'm happy to do that. I'm kind of working on this longer term project right now. I was doing a project related to a summer program at a school, and then that has sort of expanded into more of a, a different documentary style project related to education and that subject matter. So that's kind of a fun project that I'm working on right now. And now that it's sort of trade season over time, that doesn't even make sense. Most of the trade shows are done now. There'll be a few things, Camera Mage and some other stuff that doesn't really fit into the category of IBC, Cine Gear, DV Expo. Um, that maybe there'll be some educational content around there. What's your best gear you've bought in the last 12 months? That's a great question. Um, Funding niche docs like yours, Pat. Um, that's a really good question, Harrison. I don't know if I have an answer to that. I mean, not something that comes to mind immediately. I'm always trying to think about that is kit that I'm going to use 70 plus percentage of the time. And you're saying in the last year, I'm just looking around. Like, what is it that I can't not have in my kit? And I don't know. That's a good question. And I just find right now that we're in this place where the quality of gear that's available and the quantity of that quality of gear is um just so large in terms of the amount of it that it's almost overwhelming in terms of what to do. And I've talked about this in the past, and I think that the Aperture 1200X is a good example of it. Who wouldn't want that light, right? You've got this new light engine, you've got extremely high output based on the power draw. Um, 1200-watt unit is essentially going to be your, like go-to key light for pretty much any situation that you would need it for, and can also slot into being a light that would be used for medium to larger size productions, right? So great piece of kit from what I can see and from the demonstrations I've seen and talking to the people at Aperture. But that doesn't negate or make less of the gear that you already have. It's an advancement in technology. It may be a big leap, it may be incremental, but the reality is that we've had LED lights that render, skin tones well for quite a while now. So it doesn't mean that we can never get better. We can always get better incrementally or in large leaps. But that equipment that you have right now um, is more than adequate. Um, unless it's decade old or more. So I sort of just have this inventory of equipment now that I'm using on a regular basis. I mean, I don't go out on the job anymore without a Mix Pre 6.2. That's just like not going to happen. The camera could change, but that piece of audio gear, in fact, next Tuesday, I think that's the 22nd, Sound Devices, if you own a Sound Devices product, is going to have, I think it's a 1 or 2 day sale where they're going to do 25% off of their plugins. And I'm very seriously thinking about getting a second license for Noise Assist so I have it for channel 1 and channel 2. And I'm also looking at probably getting the Mix Assist plugin, which is when you're using multiple microphones and it's basically ducking. It's machine learning, AI, whatever you want to call it. It's just smart enough to duck the other mics when people are talking. So, yeah, that's the deal. That's awesome, Harrison, that you have that on order. And man, Pat, if I knew how to fund niche stocks, I'd be telling you right away. This one is sort of an extension of what I was doing, so it just sort of expanded into that. DJ, how are you dealing with data wrangling when you're entirely solo operating? It's a thing I'm finding very frustrating. Running a couple of cameras, checking for framing, rolling audio exposure, plus tracking, getting offsite in time, and all that, plus dealing with making sure those cards are offloaded and secure. I mean, I'm probably doing what everybody's doing if you're solo, which is just treading water and putting all of my mental energy into making sure that I am backing up that footage properly. So for me, it's going to be making sure I have enough cards that hopefully I don't have to wipe those cards the day of. And then at least backing up to 2 additional drives. And, the beautiful thing now is, do I have it? Yeah. I mean, look, we're able to walk around with, hard drives that are this size and they're fast. So I've been using the X9 and the X10 Pros. I've used OWC Envoy drives. These, all of those drives have sustained data rates that are very, very good. So as long as you have a good fast card reader and you have those fast drives, then offloading to the drives is a lot quicker. And I've already dealt with more than once in my life, but sort of the epiphany on SSD drives was on a project I did last year where yeah, Hedge, Shotput Pro, those are great solutions for checksum verification and backing up to more than one, one drive. But basically, last year I was on a job and we were using SSDs, and they started to throttle severely with the footage that we were shooting on Alexa, and we were standing outside forever waiting for this stuff to offload. So sustained read write data speeds, very very important with the drives that you're using, fast card readers, and then some of the stuff that I talked about. I'm not saying that was everything, but it's one person is responsible, and then checking not only file size and that the same data is on both drives, but that the right data is in the folders that is necessary. Um, I tend not to pull more than one card from the camera to ensure that. So I'll usually pull a camera first, and then I'll back that up, and then turn that upside down. There are little tricks like, setting up a little station where you have your computer in the middle, and on the left hand side and on the right hand side, you have little essentially spike tape frames that are there. So that what you'll do is you'll take a card and you'll put it in a red frame to the left of your computer, and that means that card is ready to get offloaded. And then once it's actually offloaded and it's on or in two different locations, drives, then you could put it into a green frame to the right of your computer and say that card is okay to take and reformat. But again, if I have my way, then I would rather have that data on two different drives, leaving at the end of the day to two locations, again, if possible, and then also have it on, the SD or CF, whatever type, Express type A, Express type B, whatever type of card it is. But when you're by yourself, it's like the last thing that you want to do. So, but you got to do it. Got to hunker down and just get it done. I do try to do rolling wrangling when I'm on a job if I can, DJ. And what I mean by that is if it's just me and I'm responsible for that job as well, I'll try to be smart about making sure that I'm pulling cards. I have enough cards, but I'm pulling cards at lunchtime, and I'm offloading and I'm handling all of those. And then I have new cards in for the second half of the day, so that I am minimizing that amount of time that I need for offloading at the end. Um, it's harder on days when the set stays because you just want to walk, but you can't. So you've got to back stuff up. Um, but on days when you're going to wrap, if you start to wrangle and you have a system, then it usually sort of times out pretty well. I agree with you, Harrison. You don't want to chintz on. I've said it. I'm going to say it a million times. All of the money is on your media, on your drives, whatever it is that you're using, and they have to be reliable. Uh, are they going to be bulletproof? No, that's why we have redundancy, but you've got to do that. Um, that's where all the money is. All of the planning, all the pre-production, the production, it's all sitting on media, and you have to make sure that that's right. And that's one of the things that happened on this recent thing is we lost. I wasn't there, but we lost a camera for a few of those interviews. B camera wasn't too tight. It was very usable. We had double system sound, so that was great. Um, and you're right, two is one. Exactly. So, you know, we could talk about it forever, but it is it's a challenge when you're doing it all by yourself. Um, and I find that that is one of the downsides to no crew production is that it opens up the door exponentially for things to go wrong. Um, I can't tell you, it's not many times, but I can't tell you how many times that I've had to check myself because I've forgotten to do one step. Or recently I was on a shoot and I thought I might have double rolled, but I thought that I had rolled on B camera, and then realized that I hadn't. And it was minutes, it wasn't hours, but I rolled on B when I realized that was the situation. It was just me in the room with the production and interviewer and interviewee. But then I tail slated at the end so that there was a reference point with a slate for the editor so that they could sync the B camera with A camera for the rest of that particular interview. So the vast majority of the interview was a long interview. We had A and B, but it's so hard when you are doing every job and when you're tasked with even with the great autofocus that we have now, it's not completely bulletproof. I had a situation on a recent shoot where I was using Sony cameras, which are practically bulletproof, and one of the cameras just started doing something weird where the focus started to drift. And the normal tricks weren't working, so I basically had to cycle the camera, and then I got it back up, and it started to work. And there you go. Yeah, don't listen to your colleagues. I'm not saying you do, Harrison, but it's it's where all the money is. So redundancy is good. All right. What else do we got? What else are we talking about? I don't even know if I answered your question, DJ. I think I did. I don't even know how you got that question out. It was like a proper question. Were you taking a like a water break or something from your run? I don't know because you still had 5 kilometers left or miles. I don't know. I was just in Europe. Kilometers. Yeah. Celsius. Which probably makes more sense, but I don't know. Like, it's weird that the freezing point is 32 degrees for Fahrenheit, but I feel like Fahrenheit for temperature is more precise because there's bigger jumps, but you get used to whatever system you are using. I can't say that's the same for miles per hour versus kilometers per hour. I definitely think that for cooking, weight measurement wise, grams is so much more precise than saying have a cup of. Is it a dry product or is it a wet product? And then, especially when it's a dry product and you're talking about baking, you can't be as precise. Baking is more of a science. And so grams makes a lot more sense in terms of a measurement. Yeah. All right. I'm digressing, but you get the idea. All right. What do we got for our next topic? We are at, oh, look, it's almost 3:40. So we're like 40 minutes in. We may not get, again, a full hour in today. I'm thinking about doing another trivia thing next Wednesday because I don't think we're going to do like a full on challenge. I'll think about that. DJ says, yeah, tactical offloading helps. They didn't renew my shot put license, so I reverted to Resolve since it has a small media manager. Done my 10. Oh, I thought you said you had done your 10,000 hours. You did your 10K now. Thanks, Pat, and appreciate kind words. What's up, Kevin? Baker here in the U.S. and wait, Kevin Cox says Baker here in the U.S. and converted my recipes to grams for that exact reason. Oh, copy that. I thought when you said Baker, it was your name, and then I was looking at Kevin Cox. I'm tracking with you. Yeah, once I started to cook, like when I'm using, look, I'm not a baker in a traditional sense, but pizza, yes, and making doughs, and it's just so much easier in grams. Um, so much easier. And not just easier, more precise. You're going to get a more consistent result by doing that. Yeah, I don't know what now. DJ, I don't know, or Harrison, what the difference in price between Hedge or whatever the new name of that product is and Shot Put is, but they're all very similar in terms of what they do. Um, I do know people, and I've done it many times as well, where I'm doing a manual backup, but I'm being very precise and checking file size and things like that. Um, there's a lot of thought process or thoughts on that both ways. Sully, good to have you. Thank you for stopping by. Um, so what are we going to talk about? We got a little more time here, and I'm down for it. If you've got a question or some sort of topic that you want to bring up, I am game for that 1,000,000%. So what do you got for me? I'm making it here. Um, Question was, by the way, did the team check their actual cable for that slow transfer? Sometimes my drive is great, my cards are great, but the cable itself is super slow. I'm not sure. I don't know what they were using. I know there was no built-in card reader like there is in my MacBook Pro. These cameras were SD cards, and I just think they didn't think through their whole media managing process, and as a result, they had more than one person weighing in on how this was going to be done. And when things were going slowly, they made the decision that we're going to offload somewhere else. And, it's like right there, that's where things go wrong. So I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, let's see. Anything, boom, 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 boom. Uh, yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep. Perfect. All right. I just need to make sure the world wasn't blowing up. I'm still working here, and I don't know why my email started up again. It did. Maybe I accidentally just fired it up, but that's why I heard that little ding. Yeah. So, I mean, it is important. I will say, just in general, this whole now. Um, Device cable sort of combination, and the worst of them is USB-C or that connector, because you could have that in a Thunderbolt 4 cable, you could have that in a power delivery cable that is supporting 60 watts or 100 watts or whatever it's going to be, or it could just basically just be kind of like a connection cable, where you're hooking up something like a microphone. So USB-C is very confusing in terms of the fact that not all cables, in fact, it's crazy to think how many different cables have different capabilities. But the connector on either side is identical on all of those cables. So it does, yeah. DJ says Hedge uses a bit of a hack to help speed up transfers by not performing a totally thorough checksum. So I've never totally trusted them, or at least that used to be the case. Got it. What still photography projects are you working on at the moment? From a client standpoint, nothing. We did something uh, a little over a month ago for a dancer, and then what was the last thing? We occasionally will do some architectural photography stuff, and then the rest of it is basically personal photography. Got to make sure all those USB-C cables are 240 gigahertz and 40 gigabytes. Yeah, yeah. You got to get the right stuff. I mean, USB-C is a bitch. Sully, thank you. I appreciate that. Less so me. I mean, I was involved from sort of a G&E or Gripen electric standpoint. So I was definitely helping with lighting and setting up those shots and things. But the photographers, my wife and her, she has a business with another photographer, and they're partners in that business. They were guiding what look and feel they wanted, and I tried to, get a look or two that I wanted to. I usually can sneak one of those in. USB-C cables are a complete nightmare. I mean, the whole thing is just so. Look, Thunderbolt has a particular logo, and it'll put a 3 or a 4. Um, it's kind of crazy that they don't just label them like PD60, PD100, or something like that, because it's virtually impossible, just sort of sight unseen, to know. Even now, I have all of these USB-C cables, and most of them are for power delivery. And I usually just buy them now with 100-watt capacity at least, because I don't want to have to think about whether or not it has enough draw for the power brick or for the power bank that I'm attaching it to. You're back. I didn't know you left, Brandon. Glad that you are back, and I'm assuming you got that last minute edit done and off to the world. I know a lot about those. Yeah. So no still photo projects that I'm aware of that are on the horizon right now. Assuming there'll be some more in the future, but that's not usually a focus of my company in terms of the type of stuff that I'm trying to get. All right, what else do we got? We got any stuff? Anything else that we want to talk about in the last 10 plus minutes? Brandon, you came back. What do you got? I got a hey Sully, hey Brandon. What's our topic? Food, photography, cinematography, um, camera stuff, audio stuff. What we got? David says the horror comedy YouTube show I may have mentioned, Friday Night Frights, which you did. It's coming out this month every Friday. 2 of 4 have already come out. I was camera, lighting, and editor. Awesome. Send me a link to that, David, if you can, to contact at thec47.com. Feel free to let people know. I'm assuming if people just type in Friday Night Frights in YouTube, they'll come up with that stuff. Kevin says, I just went through and cleaned out all of my USB-C cables and restocked with fast ones during Prime Day. One too many times needing a data cable and getting power only. It's crazy. Brandon wants to hear about the trip. Food. What was your daily carry? So the daily carry for photos was the iPhone 15 Pro and the A7C2. And I brought the 18 to 50 millimeter and the 28 to 70 millimeter Sigma lenses. I didn't bring the Fuji this time. It was just sort of a decision of how can we be smart about what we're bringing and not bring stuff that we're not going to use. And I think that worked out pretty well. Food, it's Italy. It was ridiculous. I mean, it's hard as long as you're not in the center of a tourist area in Florence or Rome to get a bad meal. Some meals were better than others. Almost all were in Tuscany. Um, Bologna is famous for tortellini in brodo, which is a very clear, like chicken broth, very clear, with meat-filled tortellini just floating in it. Parmigiano Reggiano, you're done. Unbelievable. Carpaccio at one restaurant, it was New York strip, very thinly sliced, a little bit of salt, with arugula, Parmigiano Reggiano shaved. Um, and then they had this very, very good quality balsamic that I put on the plate, and I would dip the steak into that. It was, whoa, I'm blowing up here. It's going great. I was going to have wild boar because that is definitely a specialty. What I did have, DJ, was I had a pork liver, which was, it almost looked like brujol, like rolled. Unbelievable seasoning. and searing and flavor. It was so intense. There were 3 pieces on the plate. I had to leave a little bit of the third because it was just so heavy. But the fennel taste, my guess is it was fennel pollen, not fennel seeds, was just ridiculous, which is a key ingredient. The fennel pollen in porchetta as well. And I just had some really good meals when I was there. Um, I don't know the answer to that question about the 5-pin cables, DJ, to be honest with you. Uh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm always a little on that. Sully says has had good luck with Alvin's cables. Okay. Oh, Brandon says we're still in the midst of this studio build out. Can send pics if you want. Sure. Remove the acoustic ceiling. Getting AC and the electrics roughed in, outlets in the ceiling and wall, stuff like that. Good. I hope it's going well. Yeah, wild boar ragu was on my list. There was one night, DJ, that we were in Siena, and we were supposed to go to a restaurant. These are my favorite that are in like the countryside, in the middle of nowhere. But we had to stay in Siena. It was also that rainy day. It kind of sucked, but um, that was probably what I was going to have that night. And we turned out we had to stay in Siena because we were working out a gift. Because the other part of this, even though it was a work trip, was we combined that with this destination wedding for a good friend of mine. So that sort of happened for 3 days of the, we'll say 10 days end to end trip. So we had about another, we'll just say 5 days, um, 5 days in there for the other stuff we were doing. Ono, good to see you. Yes, feeling much better. Still stuff going on here, but um, definitely on the mend and almost there. There you go. It's like Ono snuck in at the end and gets all the, there. What is with the pastrami here, Brandon? There's something yeah, Brajol. Um, Brajol, at least on the East Coast where I grew up, is generally pork. Doesn't it can be beef, and then it's pounded out, and then you put herbs and things, and then you roll it up, and you sear it, and you put it into a sauce. Um, when we were in Umbria years ago, we made pork brajol, and it was a pork chop, and they would pound it, and they would just season it. It wasn't rolled; it was grilled, but they still called it brajol. So I guess regionally might be a little different. So at least I'm in the middle of purchasing a cargo van. I am assuming that is what you guys used to carry gear. Yeah, it depends. I mean, sprinters, transits, lots of different options there. Um, was that the 18 to 50 APS-C Sigma lens? Yes, it was. It's good. I mean, I primarily use that lens for videos, but anytime we're using it for stills, it seems to work out well. The 28 to 70, Jake, is a full frame. So that's a DG DN lens, not the DC DN lens. So that's just a full frame. Um, but both of those Sigma lenses perform really, really well. What I love about the 18 to 50 is a close focus. I mean, it's like that. It's practically macro in terms of what you can do. It's not a one-to-one macro or anything. David says it was a very amateur, no money production. Let's just see. Uh, let's just say lots of boom mics in the shots, and they like it that way. There are lots of Friday Night Frights YouTube channels. Well, you should give us the one that's yours then. I'd love to see that. There we go. What this pastrami thing is. I'm a brisket person. Well, let's say this. I'm not saying I'm a brisket person. Am I more of a corned beef or a pastrami person? I'm more of a corned beef person. Small brown fox, what's happening? There you are. David, you got to tell us the name of the YouTube channel that your videos are on. We're getting close to the end here. I feel a nose blow, but I'm still feeling much better. You have a Land Rover LR3 as your camera car? Yeah, excuse me. Air struts are like driving on kittens covered in jelly. Never heard that one before, Brandon. I'll read that again. Air struts are like driving on kittens covered in jelly. In jelly! Exclamation point. Think about that one for a second, people. That's from Brandon, Mr. Pastrami Head. I don't know what's going on, but there you go. Yep. Oh, heading back to the UK. Where are you heading back to the UK from, Small Brown Fox? Are you in the Middle Europe part of the world, or in the United States part of the world, North America? Volcano kittens in jelly. What? It's smooth. All right, we're digressing now. All right, this is why we're 3 minutes away. Any last questions for the live stream? I'm ready. As far as I know, we're back next Wednesday for the regular 3 p.m. Pacific time live stream. Maybe we'll do a trivia thing and have some prizes, courtesy of B&H. And I'm going to continue to work on becoming a human being here. I'm getting closer as we move forward, and I'm glad everybody stopped by to say hello, had some questions, all that good stuff. Keep the engagement going on the channel. I try to catch up with the replies to everybody on comments that are relevant or that I should be replying to. I'm a couple of days behind because of this thing right here, but I will catch up. And yeah, awesome. Pastrami, not aspirin, I guess, is the takeaway from today's live stream. And I made the Nona soup already. I'm a good chicken soup person. Jess is better. And I'll be fine, everybody. All right. Thank you for the kind words and the well wishes. And I'll see everybody next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific. Take care of yourself and have a good weekend.